I'm just gonna be an asshole and assume that we're online. So, welcome to the stream, everyone. Today, with me today, I have my minion, as always, Pat Olson. Say hi, Pat.
Hello.
And we have a special guest. Some say he was once bitten by a king cobra, and after 6 days of agonizing pain, the cobra died. All we know is he's called Chris Rock, the bringer of death, the fourth bringer of birth, and overthrower of government. Chris Rock is a prominent Defcon speaker, my personal favorite, and also the creator of an open source SIEM solution, SIEMMonster. He also boasts having monster truck sized balls. Not sure if that's true or not. Chris, could you elaborate on your size?
Well, I made the mistake of sending an email to you with the email address monstertruckballs at gmail.com. And I do not have monster truck balls. They're pretty big, but they're not monster size. But that actually refers to one of my heroes. He's not in security, he's not in IT, but he's just got balls of steel. And I'll talk about him a little bit later, but he was essentially one of my marks, and he was the toughest person I've ever known. Like, goes to jail, does border hops wearing a burqa. He's just like one of my heroes. So that's why I use the monster truck balls to pretty much spur myself on.
Cool. So, is there anything that I left out from the intro of you?
No, you covered it. I'm probably best known for my DEFCON talks. But yeah, my full-time job is SIEMMonster, which is, as you said, open source SIEM.
And you also released a book, I think.
Yeah, so when I did the DEFCON talk, I don't know if you've ever submitted to DEFCON or you've seen some of the talks. I did so much research that I thought I would do a white paper, and that white paper turned into a book. So it's called the Baby Harvest, and it essentially talks about my DEFCON 23, I will kill you and I will birth you talk. And it was just good to get something in paper. Did it make any money? Not much, because bloody hackers put it on uTorrent and then just download it for free, but I wouldn't expect anything less.
So yeah, I actually didn't know about you before, Chris, but after Joachim told me about you, I had to watch both the DEFCON 23 and DEFCON 24 talk, and well, at least I didn't waste my time, and they were hilarious.
I'm glad you like it. I do it for entertainment.
I also found some other great talk. I found like how to weaponize your pets. So I spent like way too many hours after I looked up your videos too.
And look, I get to work with great people too. I mean, the DEFCON 24 talk, Simon Mann, I saw him on a documentary. He's a mercenary, a real mercenary. And look, I just made contact with him. Him and I got to talking on the phone, and we ended up doing the research together, combining his mercenary work with my cyber mercenary work. So it was great. And, now I've got another contact, to use. And he's just a great guy. I mean, I asked him to sign a book, and he just signed it. So.
Yeah, I mean, everyone needs a mercenary in their lives, I guess.
You do. You never know when your government's starting to shit you, that it's just like, time to pull the plug.
We also do have like a considerable amount of like ex-military guys in our team.
Yeah, we do. So, Chris, one of the things that really intrigues me about you is like how to come up with this shit. Like, especially for example, the DEFCON 23 talk. How did you come up with that talk? And like, how did you? It seems like when you get an idea, you go super deep into that rabbit hole until shit comes out.
Yeah, you're spot on. So the first talk I did, DEFCON 23, I saw a news article about a hospital in Australia that accidentally killed 200 people, as in they sent 200 death certificates out of people instead of discharge notices. And I thought, how the fuck could that happen? That's like weird. And obviously they'd moved to the electronic sort of world. So I then thought, you know what, I want to research this. I want to find out what the fuck's going on that could happen. And then that research, my personality is very obsessive. So I then pretty much dedicate, the next year, 2 or 3, depending on the topic, into that topic, and then I know it inside and out. And if I don't know, I'll contact people that do know. So I'll speak to, funeral directors or doctors or stuff like that. So that's how I came up with that one. The next one, Defcon 24, government one, I've been working with the Kuwait government very closely for a period of about 7 years. So I had a lot of material already, but I didn't really have the mercenary component and the overthrow of a government. And that's why I teamed up with Simon Mann. So the skills that I didn't have and would take too long to research, I could then just use his brain. And so him and I worked together on that one. The one that I'm doing now, again, it's just, actually, I was at Defcon 27 and my wife said to me, you need to come up with another Defcon talk. And I said to her, you don't just fucking come up with a Defcon talk, it fucking takes years of research and blah, blah, blah. And I'm drifting off to sleep that night and I'm going, what the fuck does she know? She had no idea about, Defcon talks, blah, blah, blah. And as I'm drifting off to sleep, I came up with another idea for the next one that I want to present. And that's how my brain works. It just, I've got something just triggers and then boom, I go down the rabbit hole, like you said, and then come out with, some material. And it'll be a white paper, it'll be a book, it'll be a Defcon talk, it'll be a, Chaos Computer Club talk, whatever it is, but I just want to get that research out there.
Yes, especially the Defcon 23 is, at least considering right now with today's situation, like every country is counting deaths, so it's very much relevant. And we've seen similar things like in Joachim's country, Finland. They even had negative numbers for some time, and I assume that was for the same reason, human error.
Exactly, and for me, it was a perfect climate. It was a situation where people were not registering births or deaths for whatever reason, whether it's I don't trust the government, or not accessible, blah blah blah, and the government were trying to force people to register these births and deaths, and they made it easier. So they moved to electronic, and it was a perfect combination of government pushing and making it easier to register births and deaths. Is where I came right in the middle between real life and policy. And I was like, boom, they're in a shit situation because they're pushing heavy and doctors are a pain in the ass. I mean, doctors in the US, for example, with a death certificate, they didn't want to use the electronic thing. So they actually wrote a death certificate out and they would fax it off to an office and then they had to translate that and on and on. So you're dealing with people who don't like security or IT, and I'm right in the middle and just fucking around with them. So it was a perfect climate.
It's just, oh man. Yeah, what Pat said, we actually had, like when Corona hit, they started counting the statistics of deaths regarding Corona. And one day we had like one less dead people than the day before. So I posted that to some of the guys and said, okay, in Finland, the healthcare system is so good that they can, bring people back from the dead. And Pat is always saying like Finland is best at everything, and he's showing me statistics of all kinds of crazy shit. And then I gave him this, and I think his mind was blown. That's how good the Finnish healthcare system is. But actually, thinking about that, maybe I should have gone to the rabbit hole of that statistic and just like I didn't do anything else than just post the statistics. I should have done a Chris Rock thing on that.
Yeah, and look, and you might go down the rabbit hole and maybe something doesn't exist. Like I remember between Defcon 24 and Defcon, what we just did, Defcon 28, I was looking at casino chips, and I went down the rabbit hole of the actual the chips that they're putting in the RFID tags into chips, and then just trying to get in the middle of the communications between the roulette table and the back end casino. Now I went down that rabbit hole. I bought RFID equipment. I bought chips. I bought all the equipment. I probably spent 10 G's on that sort of stuff, but it was just too much work, and there was just too much security that meant that I was going to be down that rabbit hole for 5 years, and I still got to run a business. So I left that one alone. So yeah, with you and your statistics, definitely have a look. I have a hard look, and then after a month or two, if you're not getting anywhere, dump it and look for something else. But if there's something there, just go for it.
Is that the reason why you haven't had a DEFCON talk in a few years? Because you've been into too many rabbit holes and you haven't been able to exit those rabbit holes?
Yeah, no. Unfortunately, business got in the way of Defcon talk. So I kicked off. I ran a penetration testing company, which did great, like business-wise. But then I kicked off a SIEM startup, security information event management startup, and that just went whoosh. And then international customers, I'm obviously from my accent Australian. We moved to New York, kicked off the business in New York, got a lot of customers in that North American and in Europe. And then I had no time to obsess over, these sort of talks. Now that the company's grown, where it wasn't just a 1 or 2 man band, it was myself and my wife who kicked it off. Now that I actually have staff, I've got sales staff and tech staff, and stuff. I now have that luxury of doing what I love best, and that's research. Just into various topics. And it's not research. The beauty of myself is I research what I want. If it's like dog shit, I don't want to touch it. I just want to. If I'm going to waste a year of my life, I want to say waste, as in go down that rabbit hole. Then it's got to be something I enjoy. So I get to pick the topic. It doesn't have to be the Cisco appliance or F5. It can be whatever the fuck I want it to be. And that's where I am.
All right, so usually at some point in the stream we delve into the depths of your childhood just to get to know who you are. So what were you like as a kid? Did you start like breaking shit when you were young, and did you go into rabbit holes already at a young age? Did you climb into them at a young age?
Yeah, so I was lucky. I'm 47 now, so when I was around the 7 or 8, 9, I was playing video games, and having that obsessive personality, you obsess over the game, which that led into coding and all that sort of stuff. So I had computers from. When I say computers, I had the personal computer. I know there's a lot of people before me that had the tape decks and all that sort of stuff. I went straight into the C64, Amiga, XT systems, pretty much at 9 years of age. So I got to play with that stuff, and for me it became a second nature. Like, it was funny. My dad, being an old guy, he was into like train sets and shit like that. And as a kid, I was into train sets and shit like that. And I think that's the sort of personality that goes into that whole, obsessive shit and all the trains, all that sort of crap. But when computers came out, I had no interest in that train stuff anymore, and I sold all my shit and then bought computers. And he was like, "Oh my god, all that work, that's my childhood, blah blah." So he was trying to replicate what he had as a kid for me, but that's not what I wanted to go through. So I went straight into computers and never stopped. So if you ask me to hammer 2 bits of wood together with a nail, I can't do it. Like I'll fuck it up. I don't have. I once went to like a hardware store and bought a nail gun, and I just bought the gun thinking that's all I needed. But I then found out you need an air compressor and shit like that. It's just I have no of that common sense for that normal stuff. But computer stuff, that's my world. And so it's that obsessiveness over that. I'm no fucking genius. All I do is I play with it. So 18 hours a day. My leisure is my work. There's no fucking difference. So you do something for 33 years or 34 years. You fucking got to be good at it. I mean, you can't fuck it up.
We actually also got a really nice comment in the chat. Wait, there are no rabbits in Australia. Are they rabbits? Are there?
There's heaps.
Heaps.
I think kangaroo pouch would be more fitting instead of rabbit hole.
Actually, what I heard about the rabbits in Australia is that they're also trying to kill you, just like everything else in Australia.
Poisonous rabbits.
Yeah. That's it.
Oh man!
Yeah, it's probably easier to list the. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Was he joking about no rabbits?
I don't know, man. It's the chat. We don't know.
I think it was a kangaroo joke.
What sort of podcast is this, guy? Don't you screen your people? Yeah.
No, it's a stream, man. It's on Twitch, and we have a chat, and they might ask weird questions. Yeah, now he corrected it with saying venomous rabbits, so it's fine. Anyway, Chris, it sounds like your dad also had a bit of an impact on you as a. Well, apparently, I mean, The apple didn't fall too far from the tree. So talk us about how your dad impacted you.
Actually, it's funny you mention that, because if you'd asked me that before I told that story, I would have said not much at all. But you're probably spot on, because as a kid, I remember as a 13-year-old, he used to take me to all the computer shops and buy all the stupid shit that I wanted. Whether it be the dot matrix printer or the 300 baud modem, because that's like back then, that's what the normal was. So he had an influence. Well, he supported me, put it that way. So it wasn't his era. He wasn't into computers at all, but he supported me financially and resource-wise to get me what I wanted, which ended up being my career. So,
but it also sounded like he was a bit obsessive, just like you, like with the trains and stuff. So
yeah, I agree.
Maybe some of those traits moved over to you as well in your gene pool.
I think you're right. You're a smart guy, mate. No wonder you're running a podcast.
Yeah, too bad the genes are venomous, just like everything else in Australia. When did you realize that you actually wanted to work with computers? Since, I mean, you were interested in computers and that kind of shit, but when did you realize that, okay, this is actually something I could work with, not just have it as a hobby?
Yeah, I think you probably do the same thing in Europe, but we have something called work experience. So when you're 15, the school tries to line up a job for you, and you do 2 weeks in an office or whatever thing you want to do. You guys have that sort of stuff over there?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And so
I went. This is embarrassing. I went to a pizzeria because I wanted to eat pizza.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I wish I thought of that. But yeah, look, I went to a computer place and did some development and did some coding and what have you. And normally in Australia, you don't get a full salary. You essentially get like $10. It's just you're doing the experience for free, probably like a modern day intern. But they paid me a full check back then. That was like, I think it was like $235 a week. So I got like 400 and whatever that is, 470 for the fortnight. I went, holy shit, this is really cool, doing something that I love and getting paid for it. For me, that was like, boom, that's what I want to do. And I know that's not big money then, but as a fucking kid expecting $10, I mean, that's a lot of money. For me, that was like, fuck, RAM, you know what I mean? Like 16 gig of RAM. It was like, well, probably wasn't even 16 gig back then, but it was probably fucking 2 gig. But, it was awesome to get that sort of money.
Yeah, we have the same in Sweden or Europe too. But normally it's free, but there is always some that do get paid, and everyone else is like, oh, did you get paid? I didn't.
Yeah, okay. It's not always fair. Life is not fair.
Life isn't fair.
But my dad, again, another influence, he never went to university. So he was a school teacher / principal, but he never got a degree. So he was a big pusher to go get a degree. You need a degree for whatever you do. So I went to comp science at 18 when I finished high school, and I fucking hated it. It was just, I didn't want to do it. I thought, this is shit. So I dropped out after 3 months, and then, just bummed around, did whatever I wanted to do. And then when I was 19, I tried again, like have another shot. So I did comp science again, 3 months, fuck this shit. I'd go to the gym, all that sort of stuff, and then dropped out again. And then I've just picked up a job, like in a computer shop. Which was fucking great. I got to put computers together and all that sort of stuff. And I tried 4 times to go back to uni as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 21-year-old, and I couldn't fucking do it. I just hated it. For me, the shit was old. It was, the lecturers were, I have to say this politely, but they were stupid. It was just really crap old stuff. And for those who are out there who don't want to do a degree, you don't have to do that degree when you're 18. You can wait till you're later. So I went back to uni when I was 30 and did mathematics, crypto systems and stuff like that, and business. But at that age, just fucking go for it. Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, if you can land a job, I guess.
That's it. I mean, I went into banks. For me, banks was perfect on a resume because banks trust and banks don't retrench. Well, not most banks don't retrench. So going in the banking sector, I did like 2 years at this bank, 2 years at that bank, and then just built up my skill set in banks. And plus, when you leave a bank to go to another commercial job, is that trust factor going from one to the other. So that was the best decision I ever made. I could have gone into consulting and made more money, and I could have gone into retail and all that sort of stuff. But banks pretty much got me where I needed to go going forward.
I think if I was your manager at one of those banks, looking back now, I would be pretty worried about what all the shit you've done.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You probably think, shit, all those missing millions. I wonder where that went.
Yeah, exactly.
I found a good home for it. Don't worry.
Have you buried it in the outback?
Say that again.
Have you buried them in the outback?
Look at my skin. Does it look like I can go to the outback? I mean, I get moonburn. I ain't going outside for nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you do remind me more of a koala.
Look, if I'm going to dispose of them, I'm not going to get my hands dirty. I'm going to do it digitally and then just watch their life just, erode around them.
Oh, man. That reminds me of a fun fact. Let's just do a fun fact in between. I think there's an animal. It's called, what is it? Tasmanian devil or something? And when it poops, It poops like cubes or something. Was it the Tasmanian devil? I'm not sure.
I didn't know that, mate. I didn't know that.
Anyway, off topic. Pat, do you have some awesome questions?
What is your current role? Well, I do know that you work with the open source SIEMMonster. Is that your full-time work time, or do you have some other things also going on?
Yeah, no, good question. So, I'm the CISO of the company, the founder. I do a joint role. I do CISO, I do pre-sales, and I do technical development. And if you've ever worked for a startup before, it's essentially an 80-hour week minimum to avoid a 40-hour week. So that is my full-time job.
How many are you?
Say that again.
How many are you in the company?
How long have we started in end of 2016? Just myself and my wife, and then and one guy that I worked with for 11 years doing pen testing. Essentially one of our customers wanted a SIEM solution, but the other products that I won't mention were very expensive. We thought we could build one using open source components, and that 4-year journey has led to our own business, international business. But yeah, a full-time job. And when I can get away from that job, then it's essentially research, just study what I want to study.
How many? So what Pat was asking, how many people work for your company now?
Okay, so we have 7 full-time employees and probably another 12 contractors from around the world, which gives me the ability to move away. I still do my role, but it's not as full-on as what it used to be. It used to be like a 7 a.m. start and like a midnight finish, 7 days a week, for 4 years, and now it's not. I can essentially do 7 till 2. Doing business, and then I can do research, from 2 p.m. onwards to like what I want to do. I still do the same hours, just split.
Yeah, and talk to crazy Finns and stuff like that.
Exactly. I mean, the research is awesome, but the work is awesome too. I mean, you build a product, customers happy. And the thing is, sometimes the customer's not happy, but you bring that feedback into the business and go, why is the customer not happy? What are we doing wrong? And then you then set the goal for the next 6 to 12 months is how we can then make that customer happy. And most customers are the same. You know what I mean? They just want the same thing. They want it easy, fault free, whatever. And then just that journey. So I enjoy doing that, like that product development too. Like how can we go from where we are to where the customer wants us to be, and still be affordable.
Have you done any bug bounty research before?
Any what? Sorry.
Bug bounty.
No. So yeah, so it's a great question. That's not who I am, and that's something that we didn't really mention in the introduction. I'm a big believer of learning in the real world, not in a bug bounty, and that's probably not what your normal guests say, but I prefer to get my hands dirty. I'm a cyber mercenary. That's the side of me that I've never mentioned before. I do stuff on the side. So to answer your question, no, but I do get my hands dirty for real. And not that there's anything wrong with bug bounties. I'm a big fan of bug bounties for new people, but it's not how I was raised. I'm a convict, you know what I mean? I ain't doing that sort of the right way of stuff.
The way I see it, you kind of go beyond. so you're not someone, for example, who I would like to attack the company I work for, because you know, you would just destroy us probably. But
by the way, I read this tweet that you had a few weeks ago about this lady and the cat.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to tell the story yourself?
What was that?
The story about the lady and the cat, or was it a dog?
Oh yeah, that was.
Do you want to tell it?
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to tell it. Yeah, but yeah, so I kept getting a phone call and I didn't recognize the number. And you guys are probably the same in Europe, but if you get a number, you don't answer it. I know about in Europe, I get like maybe 10 phone calls a day, or maybe 4 SMSs with dodgy links and stuff like that. And it just got to this, I don't answer it. Now, this number kept persisting. And then they contacted me on Facebook. And it was a lady. And then she said her name was. I said, oh, I remember her. I used to work with her. So she was like a colleague. And so she said, so I rang her back. And I said, well, what's wrong? She goes, you probably think I'm crazy trying to ring you a million times, but here's the situation. I advertised a fridge on like an eBay equivalent, and someone came to pick up the fridge, and they took careful attention to one of my dogs, my small dog, and then they bought the fridge, and then an hour later the dog was missing. And it's one of those small dogs where their backyard is fully enclosed, so they knew the dog had been stolen, and they knew who stole it, and all they had was the person's appearance, not the reg of the car, the registration, but they had the physical description of the car, like a black car, and they had the phone number that originally answered the ad. Now that phone number was ringing out, no one was picking up that number. So she rang me, she'd gone to the police, she'd gone everywhere, no one would help her to try to find her dog. So I said, look, this is something I don't normally do. Well, I do normally do that stuff, but not for free. You know, it's one of those things I do as a paid assignment. Usually it's some, Saudi person or someone from Kuwait says, can you do this for me? $100 grand, gold bar, Bitcoin, whatever.
Cyber mercenary stuff, right? Cyber mercenary, yeah.
And usually I get people contact me on Twitter and all the time saying, can you hack into my boyfriend's account or girlfriend's account? I was like, man, at least you got $100 grand, just like piss off. I'm not really interested in, freebies, because that's a lot of work. Anyway, with the dog, I've got dogs myself, so I thought, I'll give her a hand. So I essentially crafted an SMS to that person to try to get them to engage it. And now I had a home ground advantage. It was in Australia. It was, I knew the postal system here. I knew the normal language to use and all that sort of stuff. So she clicked on the link straight away, and I got a antenna hit on her phone of her exact location. So I told the dog owner, this is where she lives. And then she went around to this person's house. And when she opened the door, she got the shock of her life that she'd been tracked down. And not only that, that her dog was in the house and then ran up to the owner, and she just scooped up the dog and then took the dog and then, fuck you, I'm out of here. So it's those sort of stories. It's like, yeah, that's cool. That fuck the $100 grand. That's just an awesome story.
Yeah. I think we have our best comment so far in the chat. Chris Rock, pet detective. That's
I like that. I love that.
That is just like a movie waiting to happen. Chris Rock,
pet detective. There already is one, and they follow up with Ace Ventura.
I love that film.
Me too.
And it crawls out of the butt.
I'd like to see that Chris Rock crawling out of the butt of a kangaroo, maybe, because he's Australian.
You know what? A lot of people make the jokes about, I bet you've got kangaroos in the backyard and stuff like that. I'm a bit like you, mate. I actually live in the country myself, so there's a couple of times that I've come up to my house, and there's probably been like maybe 15 or 20 kangaroos in the front yard just sitting in the sun. And I was like, they're right. The stereotypes are right.
Oh, I remember now. Someone asked me to ask you, have you ever been in a fight with a kangaroo?
No, I'm smart enough to avoid them. I've seen them attack other people, and I think that, I don't know if you've seen it. You've probably seen it on YouTube, but you think you've got warning, but you don't have any warning because they stand on their tail like it's a leg, and they kick you with their other leg. So it's just something that you've never seen before. The only instance that I had with a kangaroo was I was driving my car and I hit a T intersection and the road was icy. And the kangaroo, it must have been early in the morning because he was around. And
wait, what? Wait. I think we need to track back. You have ice in Australia?
Yeah, not yeah. So let me rephrase that. It's not like Finland or Sweden ice. So it's a bit of an embarrassment to you guys, me even saying this, but it's like when it hits 0 degrees, like ice, it's a little bit cold. You get a thin layer of ice, but not fucking snow, not like you guys.
Oh yeah, so it's like black ice, maybe. That's what we call it.
Yeah,
like you can barely see it.
And I'm in my car, and the kangaroo's beside my car, and he's trying to run away because I'm right beside him, but he can't get any traction. So he's like, skid. I'm going, don't hit my car, because these things are solid muscle and bone. If he hits my car, there's like 3 or 4 grand, just boom like that. And luckily he got traction and pissed off. But no, I would never fight a kangaroo, that's for sure.
That actually brings me back to something really interesting, actually, because Pat was mentioning earlier that there was a Defcon talk about weaponizing your pets, right? Have you ever thought about weaponizing a kangaroo? Because think of all the gear you could fit into the pouch, for example.
The one I saw was the war kitty and the night of service dog.
Yeah.
So there's and please don't take this as offense to some of your listeners. There's a lot of talks out there that focus on whether it be IP guns, whether it be like toasters or vibrators or shit like that. I'd stay right away from that. For me, it's like, it's awesome, full stop. That's the caveat. Like, keep going, keep doing that stuff. I ain't interested in the small shit. I'll leave that up to some of the other research. I'm interested in big shit. And when I mean big shit is like things that affect countries or politics or governments or military or something like that. So I usually try to avoid what I call small scale. But don't get me wrong, you affect 1 billion Samsung devices, awesome source, but that ain't me. I target big stuff, not small stuff.
I feel you, man.
So kangaroos, nah, you're too small.
Yeah.
I just had to look up kangaroo here on Wikipedia and say they can be up to 2 meters or 6 feet, and they can weigh up to 90 kilos. That's like more than me.
Yeah, but you're tiny, so.
And if you've ever seen them, you've ever seen like them all jacked up.
Yeah, I've seen the buff kangaroo. Yeah.
Fuck that. No, I'm messing with that.
So, what has been your most interesting role that you worked in so far? You've had a long career, so probably like, if you think of the early days, not maybe necessarily your current job, but in the past.
Yeah.
What has maybe been a role where you've learned the most and you kind of grown the most?
Or is there a role that you want to have in the future? Like, oh, I would really like to be something.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It makes me think. The roles that I've had have been all good. And what I mean by that is you go from bank to bank to bank, you learn a lot and you move on and you take those skills with you. That's the boring answer. So, you take that project management, business analyst skills, stuff that you don't even touch, project management, and you bring them forward into the next job. But I think by me whetting my appetite with other sort of work that I like doing on the side, the mercenary stuff, I get to do what I want to do. So most memorable stuff is working in the Middle East and doing jobs and not producing a report at the end of a job, but producing essentially what you found on the job. So you've been tasked to track an offender. Maybe someone's skipped out with $1 million, and you're supposed to track that person down. Where are they? What did they do with the $1 million and stuff like that? So that stuff I love. Like, I fucking love. You know what I mean? That's the sort of stuff that I would do non-stop. Yeah, that's the memorable shit. That's like when I'm in the old folks' home and talking shit with some old bastard with no teeth. I ain't going to be talking about fucking, I worked in this bank, I worked here. It's going to be that shit. It's going to be that shit. It's not going to be, this guy's going to offer me, 50 grand or gold bars or cash in a briefcase in the desert. It's like those stories are fucking cool. They're cool. They're the ones I'll tell. And because when you're old, you'll inflate the story. That 50 grand will be $500,000. But like, you're fucking old. Who's going to fact check?
Well, I think that is a perfect bridge into please tell us some more stories from the desert about your mercenary stories. Is there any story that you could tell which is interesting?
Well, there's one talk I'd love to say, but it's reserved for. I've been asked to speak at a really big conference that's only got 3 letters in the name, and the first letter is T, and the last letter is D, and it's. I've reserved that talk, but I can give you a brief overview, and it's about that monster truck balls guy. It's a guy that I was tracking for essentially 3 years of my life. I knew this guy inside and out. I read his emails. I owned his doctor. I owned his accountant. I owned his physio. I owned his wife, his kids, his school system, whatever. So I knew this guy intimately. And then the work that I did resulted in this guy going to jail. And when I say jail, it was like they're not sentenced to jail, but waiting trial. And then there was a bit of a dispute about payment coming my way. I was owed some money but wasn't paid, so I essentially altered the doctor's records to give him a condition that he could then use to get out of jail. And then he got out of jail using that condition. I gave him a not fictitious. He already had some symptoms, but I just made the symptoms look even worse than what they were. Like a diabetic or something like that. And then he convinced the judge to get out of jail waiting for trial. And then I watched him escape from the Middle East all the way back to the US. And I obviously couldn't help him, but I could just give him a little assistance along the way to push him in the right direction. And I watched him go from, I won't say which country, but countries in the Middle East, fishing trips, border hops, burkas, all this sort of stuff. Flew to London, got a new passport, flew to the US, and then he was free. So I've got a lot of those sort of stories. Some I can't tell just yet, but there's some interesting stories, that's for sure. War stories.
Oh man, Pat, hit me. Hit Pat. I mean, don't hit me. I mean, hit Chris with an awesome question.
Yes. So, is there anyone that you look up to when it comes to in the security industry? Like, do you have any mentors or inspirations? You seem to be not alone, but pretty independent when it comes to your research. Like, I haven't seen a lot of similar ones before.
Yeah, you actually called it spot on, and you politely said, I'm a bit of a lone wolf. So, I could give you the normal answer, Bruce, Bruce Schneer, yep. Kevin Mitnick, all that sort of stuff. They're people that I know and respect for what they've done. But in terms of mentors and guidance, no. Essentially, I've been my own lone wolf, and lucky enough to find other lone wolves who then we become a cell. So we trust each other enough to get the job done, but the trust stops there. I remember we did one job. Sorry, I speak in code sometimes. I have to be careful. So we did one job where we moved some money from one location to another, and then at the end of the job, we all said, "What we're going to do is we're going to get all the hard drives of the gear that we're using, and we're going to thermite them, destroy them." Yeah. And the two of the guys, there was myself and one other guy. We swapped out our hard drives with the evidence and just put blank drives in. And one guy put the real evidence in, but we didn't actually destroy it because we actually wanted to keep like a memento of the attack. And we got together with that third guy, and he was talked about, I don't have that evidence anymore because I destroyed it. And me and my other colleague, we just laughed. It was like, man, we kept our shit. Yeah, there's no honor among thieves. But going back to your original question, is we're lone wolves, but we operate together. Enough like to trust together. Exactly, a pack. You'll help the other survive, but if push comes to shove, you'll turn on your back.
Yeah. Good answer.
But I've listened to some of your other talks. Troy Hunt, awesome guy, blah blah blah. But it's just not me. I'll leave that to your other guests, but that's not how I roll.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it. You're different.
Yeah.
So how do you stay up to date on like all of the topics that you are researching? I guess you spend quite a lot of time researching, like late nights. Well, like this podcast here, quite late. Do you spend nights like this researching instead?
It's essentially my life. So how do I stay up to date? I mean, you've seen me. I'm not that physique guy. All I do is research and study and all that sort of stuff. So I'm always in it. Don't get me wrong. I wish I could do more penetration testing. I wish I could get the latest Kali download and have a play. And don't get me wrong, I will. But probably in 3 months' time, I won't get a chance to play with it because I've got my head up my ass studying something at the moment. I'm not into music. I'm not into, like I said, woodwork. I'm not into sport, but I'm into this stuff. So how do I start that? It is my life. It is my both work and passion. And it's not annoying, but sometimes someone will say, "Oh, have you heard of this singer?" And apparently they're famous, but fuck if I know. Like I don't know. It's not my area unless they're in front of me on a Twitter account or LinkedIn or something like that. I'm not going to know who they are.
So this brings us to an interesting topic. So there has been talking a lot of, especially with Corona now, mental health and how do you stay sane, especially if both the security is your work and your hobby.
Yeah, so for me, COVID or Corona has been fucking awesome because I don't even have to have an excuse to leave the house. You know what I mean? Like, I hope this quarantine, stage 4 restrictions, which we have currently in Victoria, Australia, I hope they last forever because for me, it's like fucking great. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to go to the city. I don't have to go out for dinner. I don't have to go to the movies, and I can just do my own shit. So, in terms of mental health, like I've
never been better.
I've never been better, and I'm going to be really pissed. I'm going to be pissed when there's a vaccine. It's like, fuck. Now I'm actually have to go to do. I've got to leave the house. But for me, it's like, man, I got all my food in. I got 6 months worth of supplies in. When it hit, I probably already had 3 months before it hit, and then I got 6 months generators and fuel and stuff like that. That's just who I am, and I enjoy that sort of stuff as well. But I say that, but I love going to the US to cons, and I catch up with people like yourselves on cons at Defcon or DerbyCon, which is obviously last year, SMooCon, all that sort of stuff. I catch up with my peers, and you guys probably follow them on Twitter, Alcantara, Gab Smash, whoever. This is the once a year where I actually get to see these people, and then just talk about research and stuff like that. I miss that. I think in terms of mental health, I know a lot of people like me are actually struggling because that once a year they can let their hair down and go to DEFCON 4 days, start for 4 days straight, drink a lot of beer, and just talk shit is the one thing that they really look forward to in a year, and they got robbed of that now. So yeah, but I'm fine. I don't know about you guys, but I'm loving it.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I love it too. But I think Pat should have rephrased the question as to how do you stay crazy, because it seems like to me, wow. It's not about staying sane. It's about
default state.
Yeah, it's about staying curious and strange. is what I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys think I'm strange. It's just who I am. You know what I mean? Like I don't see it as strange. I think people that aren't like me are just too straight laced. But that's who they are. Like I'm not gonna rob them of that.
Yeah, and I don't say it in a negative way. I actually, for me personally, I prefer people who are not like normal people. Like someone who is not normal is for me always much more interesting than someone who is like everyone else. So I really appreciate everyone who's different, and That's one of the greatest parts of humanity, I think.
I totally agree. That's why I love talking to you on Twitter, because I can give you shit and you can give me shit, and it's just like how we roll. And then we push the boundaries, but I might slide into a DM to say, don't take into any offense on this. I'm just, pulling your leg or whatever. But yeah, I fucking love that banter.
Yeah, I love it too. So,
I mean, better than, look at COVID results, go to work, watch fucking Netflix and then go to bed. I'm like, that's fucking boring. That's every day. You got to mix it up.
Yeah, for sure. So you do all kinds of research and stuff. What is your most interesting field right now? Is there something that you could maybe tell us?
Yeah, so I'm doing a lot of work with like explosives for one, like how explosives work. That's not the security side of what I'm doing, but I'm also looking at things like wavelengths. And this is a polite way of me saying I'm looking at things like frequencies. There's a lot of people who probably listen to your podcast, ham radio and all that sort of stuff. I'm really focusing on ELF, VLF, frequencies, different ways of communicating between A and B. I think something that really hit me was when Julian Assange was in the embassy, and he couldn't communicate to the outside world. He was actually being jammed, and that for me that gave me a lot of interest, because I then started studying the radio frequency bandwidths, the emergency channels, and stuff like that, on how he could effectively get a communication out from the embassy to the outside world, considering he was being jammed at the Ecuadorian embassy. So it's that sort of stuff there that I'm focusing on. It's ways of communicating that are not normal, and that's what I'm focusing on now. I've probably been doing that now for a couple of years. There's probably another year's worth of research that I want to do to finish it up, and on communicating along that frequency, whether it be text messages or stuff like that. But you'll see more of that come out once I present, and that whether that be Chaos Computer Club or Defcon or B-Sides or something else. I don't know the forum, but yeah, that's where I'll present my research when it's ready to go.
Sounds interesting. I actually got into ham radios, and I bought a cheap Chinese one like last year. I haven't played around too much with it yet, but it's around here somewhere.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, and I talked about the other lone wolves that I work with. They're the kind of guys that they won't just buy a ham radio. They'll buy they'll have all this kit to go off road. They can send signals for 1,200 kilometers, and that's just how they roll. They're completely off the grid, no mobile network, whatever. For me, that's not my world, but I respect people who are in that world. And for me, I want to have a look what they're up to, and then look on how I can extend that. And my research has been successful so far. I've actually got proven ways of communicate on different spectrums that were not designed for what I wanted to design. So yeah, look, I've been speaking around in circles, but when you see it, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking forward to seeing that talk, wherever it may be.
I expect you front row.
Oh, for sure. Wherever it is, I'll buy a ticket and go. That is awesome. For sure.
Awesome.
Is there?
So, yeah, that's what.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's what's keeping me busy at the moment.
Yeah. Is there a particular moment or memory in your life so far that stands out the most for you?
Not really. No, nothing particularly. No, I don't know what your other guests have said about that question.
There's no right answer. I mean,
Yeah, I know it's a personal answer, but I don't really have anything. They're all equally awesome. I don't have anything that really stands out.
I don't know about your wife too much, but I know that if you don't say getting married to her,
Well, And that's the obvious answer. And I can give you that answer if you like. I can say
we can edit it.
Yeah, edit that out. Yeah. So here we go. Well, yeah, the obvious answer is my wife, and I've got 4 kids. So having them, that was the definitive moment of my life. And of course, they're awesome. Yeah, but I wouldn't say they're the defining moments. And don't get me wrong, my wife has every decision I've made, whether research topic, support, stuff like that. She's the guide for me. I mean, you probably can see from my personality, obsessive personality, probably on the spectrum, what layer, who gives a shit. She'll then show me what's right and what's wrong. She'll then say, that's a bad idea, that's a good idea, you're going to get a lot of heat from that, stuff like that. So she's a big player. And in a business situation too, because she's the CEO of my own business that we both founded. But, it's just that sort of thought process of, she was the person who said, don't get a physical office. I want all your staff working remote from around the world, blah, blah. And this was 2016. She's like, I don't want an office. I want all remote workers. And for me, that was like really hard to swallow because I really wanted an office. I wanted staff coming in and stuff like that. But, come COVID, it's like, fuck, that was a good move. You know what I mean? Like, we did not change any way we worked at all. There was no coming in the office in the first place. So, and we're already using, Zoom or WebEx or equivalents for communications. So there was no change at all. So defining moments, that's probably what you call defining moments, but they're all equally cool. Yeah.
I guess you could say that behind every great man is a great woman.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I know that's a throwaway line, but in this case, it's, I probably screwed without her. Just that, you talk about best friends and stuff like that. In terms of that lone wolf, it's someone that can actually guide you on those sort of decisions, whether it's a good move or a bad move.
Yeah. And hopefully your wife is listening now, so you get some kudos at the end of this.
And this is not for kudos. This is not for her, but it does honor her as well, because I didn't get to where I was by making the decisions I made. So, me going into the whole Defcon arena was her idea. You know what I mean? It was her push to do that. She was. We had 4 kids under 18 before we started this business. I mean, anyone who would leave their job to do their own business with 4 kids. I mean, people come with excuses when they've got 0 kids or 1 kid. I had 4. So yeah, risk reward, and she pushed me for that.
That's really great. So we basically have your wife to thank for all your awesome Defcon talks, I guess.
Well, as I say to her is, like you said, behind every great man is a woman. I always tell her it's behind, not in front, behind.
Well, actually, on Twitter today, she was saying that she's a better speaker than you. So
yeah, she's done some talks too. Obviously, not in the security space, but she's done some talks too in the US. She's a good talker. She's a good timer for comedy. I'm an off the cuff guy. I swear I carry on, but she is more concentrated. So some of the talks, all the talks I've done on Defcon, they were not rehearsed. Obviously, I did all the slides, but jokes or timing, that's ad lib. Whereas she will focus on timing and stuff like that, which makes her a better speaker. I know when I went through like speaker training, when I talked about that talk that I can't talk about that starts with T and ends with D, that's very vigorous in terms of you've got to write your shit down and you've got to read off that script pretty much verbatim. I'm not that guy. I have to be that guy, but she does that stuff and she's really good at that. She gave you a good serving today on Twitter as well, which was fun to see. Usually it's me giving you a serve, but it was her this time.
yeah, but I think I also gave you a good serve. So when you said that you'll get there,
I expect a serve. If I don't get a serve, then I don't really want to talk to you. You know what I mean? If it's one way, it's like you're boring if you're not going to serve it back.
Oh man! All right, I have this strange question, which I'm not sure if you want to answer, but during your DEFCON, well, you at your DEFCON 23 talk, you talked about doing, killing and stuff. Have you ever used your research in real life?
All the time. Yeah, all the time. My kids always ask me where I hide all the virtual babies around the house, and I said, I don't think you understand the concept. They're not actually real. they are real, but they don't need to be hidden. It's a binary. So if I'm short a bit of money, I'll just cash one of them out. So do I use the research? Yes. What did I use that Defcon 23 search? No, Your Honor. But no, but I use my research all the time. That's essentially gives me an edge. And some people buy my research too. So there's some talks that I won't present. So the talk that you and I, Joachim, were talking about before, that may not get an audience. That may be private sector and may not be a talk at all. It just depends on how it goes, whether it be military or whatever. And that's fine. I do it because I enjoy it. So do I use it? Yes. To your question, yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like the mercenary in you speaking right now, kind of.
Oh, exactly. And that's the bit where my eyes will light up because that's fun. You know what I mean? Like, do a job, don't get caught. How are you going to do it? Destroy the evidence. What's forensic people looking for? I've been a forensic person before. I know what I'm looking for. Hack into other targets where hackers are in, capture their flags, take those flags with you, dump them on the server. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that flow process I really love. Like, that's like putting your skills to the test. And that's why I'm a big fan of doing that sort of stuff. I know it's illegal and blah, 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 and you're going to get feedback. I don't really give a shit. That's who I am. I mean, you want to be bug bounty? Awesome source, go for it. That's not who I am.
So you don't really care about laws that much. So I guess it's no point in asking about your opinion on the news media bargain code in Australia.
Yeah, look. Yeah, I really, I understand the argument on both sides, but based on your question, I don't care. Like, it doesn't really matter. We're going to do what we're going to do anyway. That's how we roll. I mean, you guys, I'll ask you a question. Let's turn it on. Do you guys go to uTorrent and download software? Like, is that your normal shit? Or Europe, you don't do that sort of stuff?
No, I've actually been paying for my software since ever, and I've never downloaded music legally because, well, Spotify is a Swedish company, so it's kind of like you have to support the local business. I've always been paying for Spotify.
I understand. Sure, I believe you.
I will not sort of tell you all the stuff that I've done, but I may not have followed all the all the rules, but you know.
But back then, you're a little bit older than me, Joachim, and so is you, Chris. So there wasn't really any legal options back then. Now there is.
Yeah, we didn't have options like Netflix, Spotify. Those didn't exist back in the day, so it was a different time.
Yeah, I agree.
But I also remember sharing, for example, games when I was like a kid. We used to share games on like floppy disks and, and stuff like that. Like, here's 14 floppy disks, copy the game. That was a different time back then, Pat doesn't know anything about it because that was back in the day. Like, when me and Chris, for example, when we were younger, even TVs were grayscale, so black and white. So I used to tell my kids that back in the day we were all black and white, so there was no color, and the color came later, and then it came to the TV and stuff, and we were all black and white. They don't buy it, but
and you had dinosaurs walking outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was shit back then. I mean, we used to watch football games, soccer, and if their Guernseys were the same stripes vertical and it's black and white, you didn't know what the fuck's going on. You know what I mean? Like, you had no idea. But the shit that we had to put up with as kids, I mean, I would rather be bought in this generation where you have fucking fast internet. I mean, holy shit. Compared to what we had back then, 300 baud modem, that's just shit. But that's what we had.
And you couldn't... Yeah, and back then you couldn't like start your internet in the middle of the night because you would wake the whole family up. because the modem is like beeping, unless you hack the modem and remove the beep.
And I'm older than you, so there was no internet when I was a kid. It was bulletin boards and shit like that. So we'd connect to bulletin boards and we'd switch like the terrorist handbook or the cookbook or whatever, and you do like bomb making recipes that way. There was no internet, in the 80s. That came later.
Were you into any like phone phreaking or stuff like that? Satellite hacking?
No, to be honest, I wasn't. I had a lot of friends who were. Or they said they were, put it that way. Whether they were or not is another thing. But yeah, no, I didn't. For me, at that learning curve, it was more learning than dodgy behavior. It was just learning at that stage, not actually doing that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
What about you, mate?
Oh, we don't need to go there.
Hey, come on. Answer the question.
Well, we're kind of at the end of the stream anyway. So,
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we end?
No, I'm not sharing nothing until you answer the question.
Come on, Joachim, answer.
Come on, answer it. You can just say no.
No,
it's too long. It's too long ago.
Yeah,
they can't get you for this.
I don't remember.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Did you just talk to him? And he said, "You don't call." I don't recall.
I don't recall having sexual intercourse. Whatever. Yeah. Is there any question we should have asked you, but we didn't because we suck?
No, you did a good job. You've done a really good job. You've asked all the questions, and look, if there's people who want to ask specific questions, just you contact me on Twitter. Expect me to give you an arsehole reply on Twitter. If you want a serious reply, contact me on LinkedIn. There's two different personalities. Yeah, ask away or don't ask away. It's all cool. Happy to share.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you so much for being on the stream. I really appreciate it. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
It was lovely to talk to you.
It was a pleasure, and thanks for the audience who was here and the people in the chat for your awesome questions. And be sure to.
Next stream?
Well, before that, I just want to encourage the audience to banter with Chris on Twitter. So please, give him hell.
And if I call you a cunt on Twitter, don't take offense. You know what I mean? Just don't take offense. Serve it right back, and it goes back and forth. That's how I roll.
Yeah. And on the next stream, we'll have a Finnish hacker. His name is Tommy Koski. So looking forward to seeing you all then. All right. Thank you, guys, and catch you next time. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.